All right. What's going on? Founders. All right. So I stepped on a minute earlier than usual. Just trying to set up things. All right. So we have a very interesting topic today. It is startup funding, smart money investors, right? Okay. So hopefully people are on. Welcome to Founderama live show. Today topic is somewhat technical, but also at the same time, we're trying to keep it a little generic, right? So startup funding it's very complex. It's massive, and there are lots of things that repeat, but there's also specific things for specific sectors. For instance, yesterday I was talking about startup funding for AI startups, right? Today it's much more generic. And today I want to talk about smart investors. What smart investors are, why you need them, and how to go about getting smart investors for your seed funding. Series A, Series B, yes, they are useful, but smart investors are very much more effective, powerful, and useful for seed funding at that stage. All right, so let's jump in to my screen sharing and let us find that. I hope you can see this. All right, smart money investors, what are they? Let's talk about that for just a second. Money talks, but smart money talks louder. So finding investors who bring more than just money to the table can make all the difference for a startup. Smart money investors can provide strategic guidance, industry connections, and other resources that can help a startup succeed. Now, a lot of founders, startups, when they're looking at funding, they think it's all about the money. Now, don't get me wrong. Founders are getting more and more sophisticated in terms of the funding process, and these days are also looking for startups that not only bring money to the table, but may bring other kinds of resources. But that's very limited. I would say only 20% of founders actually understand the importance of finding investors who go beyond just providing the money. Don't just take any investor who's throwing money at you. When you're fundraising, it can be tempting to take any investor who's interested in your startup. But to truly succeed, you need to find investors who can help you grow your business and take it to the next level. That's very critical. So it's not just about money. Money, yes, there's a lot of money out there, right? In terms of capital, there's a lot of capital out there. People are talking about investors have slowed down, angel investors are pulling back. Yes, to a certain extent, amateur angel investors are holding on to their purses, right? Because 2022 was a bit of a bloodbath. So amateur angel investors are very hesitant, but professional angel investors, they're not hesitant. They're actually going all out. And then, of course, institutional investors, VCs, family offices, they're just flexing their muscles now. They're going all out. It's not just about the Benjamins. In order to stand out in a crowded fundraising landscape, you need to find investors who bring something unique to the table, whether it's their industry expertise, their network, or their vision for the future. Smart money investors can provide value beyond just cash. And I'll give you an example. So it's a project that I angel invested about a year back. And so I came in as an angel investor at the pre-seed stage. And part of my kind of job was to help the startup get to the seed stage. So I came in at a nominal about a couple of $100,000 at the pre-seed stage. Ugh, I don't know what's going on today. My lips, yeah. So my intention was I come in at $200,000, and then I put the startup, I put it into shape, and then facilitate the seed funding, which we were hoping was about the $700,000 mark. And so we went through this, and I identified a family office. Now, typically family offices that come in at really large ticket items, right? So they're not really comfortable anything less than $1 million, sometimes actually $5 million, because they don't want to be investing in a ton of little bits and pieces, startups. What they want to do is put 5 million into one startup and then have a few startups like that, so that whatever they've allocated for that sector, let's say 20, 25 million, is put into 4 or 5 startups in that sector rather than 20, 25 different startups. So anyway, we found this one of these family offices within my network. They came in and they brought in the 700,000. That was great. But you know what? They were smart investors, right? Smart money investors. What they did was give us access to a network that enabled us to partner with a coexisting player in that market that we were looking for. Now, typically, to partner with that player as a small startup with $200,000 as a pre-seed, and even if we had $750,000 that came in, that makes $1 million. We're still a small fish in that sector, right? And this was kind of the fitness, biohacking, that. And to partner, to bring in that partner would have been very difficult. So this investor enabled us to do that. All right. They can help you find your path to success. In the early days of a startup, it can be difficult to know what the path to success looks like. Smart money investors can help you find that path, whether it's by providing strategic guidance, connecting you with industry leaders, or providing other resources that can help you succeed. And a great example is myself. Right. So I've just had an NFT exit, right? A 7-figure NFT exit. Now, when I'm looking at NFT projects that come onto my desk, if I do decide to become an angel investor, in fact, I am not actively looking to angel invest at this moment, but if I did, then there is an advantage there, because let's say I come in, it's an NFT-based project, and I'm not talking about the monkeys and bananas, right? I'm talking about the application layer NFT with utility, authenticity, provenance, things like that. So let's say I came in with, I don't know, $500,000. Now, $500,000 is pretty good. But there's lots of angel investors out there that can come in with $500,000. What sets me apart, or the value that I can add, is that I've actually been there, right? So I've created from scratch an NFT project. And even before we hit the market, it was acquired by a VC firm. So the path to success is very clear. It's experience, my own experience. And this is not hypothetical, right? This is real experience. I went through the process of the tokenomics design, now putting together the entire blueprint for the membership, accrual system, the tokens, blah, blah. And then, of course, reaching out to VCs and how to present that to the VC and what kind of terms to negotiate and all that. And that is strategic guidance. That is connecting with industry leaders, because while I was trying to make my project a success, I built a ton of relationships that could be utilized, and so on. So smart money investors can help you do that. It's just like if you're looking at Shark Tank or Dragon's Den, you got these sharks or you got these dragons, right? And let's say 2 of the sharks or 2 of the dragons made you an offer for that 200,000 or 500,000 that you're looking for. But one of them has your industry experience, or maybe has partner a partnership with a player that could help you, go to the next level. It's very easy, right? You're going to choose the one with that experience, with that connections. The same is the case with investors, right? So you got to research and find smart money investors. All right. They can help you avoid the mistakes that sink startups. One of the biggest challenges facing startups is the risk of failure, of course. Smart money investors can help you avoid the mistakes that have sunk other startups by providing guidance and support that can help you navigate the ups and downs of the startup journey. And again, I'll give you an example, my own example. Like years ago, we invested in a fashion designer based out of Dubai. In fact, it was one of my first outside kind of angel investing ventures, right? And this particular one, we came in with the money, and the value that I brought to the table was the brand strategy and branding and all that. Because in fact, this fashion designer came as a client to our branding agency, and then we got talking, and so on and so forth. So there was already some added value. But once, and this project was a huge success. Then the second one within that same sector, this was again fashion, this was the Middle East, this time it was Sharjah. We wanted to invest, and we did invest. There, we helped that startup avoid the mistakes that in the first investment that we made. There were a few mistakes. Of course, there's a few mistakes. Fashion was not something that we were familiar with. The fashion designer was very, very talented, skilled, but there were some ups and downs. So we took those lessons, and in the next one, we made sure those mistakes were not committed. And what that meant was the runway, the cycle of success was sped up. Okay, so they can help you build a network effect. So the power of network effect can be a game changer for startups. Smart money investors can help you build that network by connecting you with the key players in your industry and beyond. Network effect is the biggest thing. And this is, in fact, part of what I do as a startup advisor, especially funding advisor, is pitch deck and put in the business plan together, the financials from an investor perspective, because, I'm also an investor, blah, blah, blah. That's all nice. But sometimes I bring in the kind of network effect, right? So my connections, and those are valuable. So when you're looking for an investor, look for those that have extensive networks, especially within your sector. All right, so before we get into the funding strategy notes, let me just quickly take a look at any comments or anything that people might be posting. Okay, not much. All right, let's go back and let's look at funding strategy notes. Now that you understand what smart money investors are, start by looking for investors who have a track record of success in your industry. They'll be more likely to understand your vision and see the potential in your startup. It's not easy, but if you focus on trying to find investors in your sector, and it doesn't have to be a specific niche, right? It could be a broad kind of presence within your sector. Join industry groups and attend events where smart money investors are likely to be hanging out. It's all about being in the right place at the right time. So if there are some startup webinars, there are some industry meetings, there's, events where people are pitching. If you find that one of the panelists is, has experience within your sector, with your industry, have already invested, then attend that and try to get their attention. Follow investors who are active on Twitter and LinkedIn and engage with them to get on their radar. And these are, I'm talking about number one, smart money investors. Number two, better yet, if they have already invested in your sector. Be proactive in reaching out to potential investors, right? Don't wait for them to come to you. Go out and find them. Okay. This might seem a bit like duh. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. Okay. Actually, not. What I've noticed is that a lot of founders, they have this kind of spray and pray kind of attitude. So they send out their pitch deck to a few different investors, and they join these investor network websites where they upload their pitch deck, they fill out their bio, and then they sit there waiting for investors to show some interest. That's a waste of time. Don't do that. Be proactive. Make sure your pitch is tight and compelling. You only have one chance to make a first impression, so make it count. Okay, this is again generic advice, but I always keep saying this. Make your pitch tight and compelling. Highlight the potential for a network effect in your startup. Smart money investors love to see startups that have the potential to create a network effect that can drive growth and value. So this is not the same as the previous point. This is about network effect that your startup may create. So if it's a SaaS product and it's going to create a network effect, people would be interested. So that's, focus on that. All right, let's go to Q&A. That's good timing, actually. Today, I managed to finish the slide deck in 15 minutes. Now, we can look at comments. Okay. There's a question coming in. Right. Okay. This is coming in from YouTube, and it's a very interesting question. They're saying, okay. They're saying something else. Just hold on for just a second. Yeah, no, I get it. Okay. Yeah, no, it's clear. So Jess is asking that they are not in the SaaS sector. It's a beauty startup. They're going to use some technology, but not as a SaaS. And so how do you find smart investors for the beauty sector? Okay, again, all the strategy notes that I talked about, they apply. You need to seek out investors that have already invested in the beauty sector. Now, how do you do this? First of all, make a list of all the startups within your sector, right? And go and research potentially if they've already exposed who their investors are, that's fine. So if they've had seed or Series A, typically you can find that information somewhere, right? So look in news items, look for press releases, and somewhere that those startups would mention that they got their funding from so and so. Or go onto their about page, try to find who is on their board, because typically the startup investors would be also on their board. If they're not on their board, if they're not exposing who their board is, then yeah, you can reach out to them. Reach out to them and say, if you've been funded, and I've read that you've been funded, fantastic. But again, you need to build a relationship, right? So if you just send an email or send a message on LinkedIn, nobody's gonna respond to you, right? So if you need to build a relationship first. Build a relationship and then ask them who their investors are. And, these days, a lot of people, they would tell you. Okay. Yeah, also on LinkedIn, you can search for specific investors whose portfolio includes either specific niche, which is your beauty sector, or you're saying biohacking, beauty and biohacking. So even if not beauty, biohacking, then, try and reach out. Maybe their network, they have other on their network that can help you out. Okay, so let me check if there's anyone on Twitter. that is okay. On Twitter. Yes. Okay. So we have another question here. Okay. Right. Okay. Very interesting question. So this person is saying that they they need a network effect, right? So they have a SaaS startup and they're looking for funding, but they're also a part of their GTM is to kind of get influencers to support their launch, their soft launch, and they're saying, would investors help create that? Can investors, smart money investors, can they help get access to influencers that you would normally not be able to? Yes and no. Okay, so it's a two-part question. The first thing is looking for investors who might help you get access to A-list influencers. That might be a bit of a tough call, right? I think you're better off not focusing on that angle because you might end up wasting a lot of time. I think you're better off finding advisors, right, who can come on board of your startup, even pre-seed, seed, that have access to that kind of the kind of influencers that you're looking for, right? So I think you're better off, your time is better spent looking at those kind of investors, advisors, rather than investors who may. The second part of the question is, once you have the investors, could you leverage them to sort of, put in that? Yes, you can. Okay. George. Welcome, George. Do you think, George has a question, do you think it's worth spending resources in startup summits? Aha. Interesting question. Actually, I wanted to do a live episode one of these days about startup summits and also startup accelerators, the ones who charge money, all that. But this is a very good question now. Startup summit. Okay. Now, some startup summits are useful to create awareness, right? So don't expect to find your smart money investors in any of these startup summits, but you could build relationships that can lead you to potential investors that may come in. Okay, what am I saying? Startup summits are all about creating exposure. That's all it is. Now, they're not all created equal, so it depends on what kind you're doing. In particular, let's say, George is asking about Startup Summit CH. Okay. Co-founders. Okay. I cannot really comment on this particular one. I will have to dig deep, George, to find out. But yes, you could find, if you're looking for co-founders, if you're looking for advisors, if you're looking for secondary links to potential investors, yes, startup summits are very good. But it depends on what you're paying. If you're paying a lot and you're bootstrapping, then you may be disappointed because it's all about the numbers game. Okay. If you're visiting a lot of these startup summits, then you may have, look, there are startups that I know of that have hit gold, in their first summit that they signed up for and went and sometimes pitched or not pitched. But I also know startup founders who have, spent $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 on these summits before they finally found someone, either a co-founder to come in, or if they were looking for investors to find that. So I know this is not a helpful answer because it's not a simple question, right? So I will do a full half-hour episode on startup summits. In fact, I might do it tomorrow. I don't know. I'll just take a look at it. But I hope that was good enough answer. I would say do your due diligence. Find out the alumni of these summits, right? Reach out to them on LinkedIn. Find out what their experience was. Okay, you paid what? $5,000 to be in the summit. What happened, right? So try and read some stories based on that. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So it seems like not many questions because, yeah, this is not a topic that really brings out, the kind of questions because it's a pretty straightforward topic, right? And tomorrow, but one of these days, I will definitely try and do the startup summits. I'll also do startup accelerators, right? What are startup accelerators? And whether you should, maybe I'll review a couple of those. I'll dig deep. I'll do some due diligence and then maybe make some suggestions. All right. Okay. So hopefully you guys have found some value in this live episode. Now, as always, hit me up on Twitter or find me on LinkedIn, Mash Bonigala, and ask me questions, right? If you have a story you want to share, let me know and I can talk about it in the next episode. And I'm going to do this. I'll try and do this live every day or Monday to Thursday. And then Friday, Saturday, because Friday, I don't usually work on Fridays. Fridays, it's a 4-day week that I try and work. So Friday is off, Saturday, Sunday, but Monday to Thursday, I'll try and do. So hit me up if you have questions, if you want to share a story. And also, if you want to come online, if you have a story that would help startup founders, if you want to come online on this call, and I'll ask you a few questions, you can share your stories, all that. All right. So till tomorrow, go forth and prosper.